Good afternoon my friends and happy Monday. It's the 24th of January and I hope you all had a lovely weekend. My weekend was just really quiet, non-eventful, stayed home, did nothing. You know, that kind of vibe. And it was very welcomed too. I just really needed some chill time just doing nothing. So this morning I've just sort of been like pottering around and just sort of figuring things out. I fell asleep last night thinking about how to back my Quilty Trees quilt. The goal was to get it quilted over the weekend. Didn't happen. Are we surprised? No. I just had no sort of motivation or inspiration to like try and figure out the backing to this quilt, because this is the fabric that I've decided to back it with because it's just absolutely perfect. It is the best match ever. It's that really nice beautiful turquoise that's through the block, and then it also has this gold sort of design through it, which I think really fits in with the stump part there. See, I've got a new block up here. I'll explain that in a second. But this backing is absolutely perfect, but I don't have enough to cover the whole back of the quilt with just this one fabric. The size of the quilt, now I'm going to be using centimeters because that's how I will now work out the backing and the batting and the binding. If you didn't know, when I make quilts I use both inches and centimeters, so both imperial and metric. So when I'm piecing, I use inches, but then once the quilt top is finished, I will then go and use like centimeters and meters to figure out how big the quilt top is, and then how much backing I'll need, and then figuring out binding and stuff like that. So that's just how I work. So I'm going to be saying all of this in centimeters and meters. And for those of you who aren't fluent in metric, I'll pop it up on the screen for you in inches. This fabric that I have here, I've only got 2 meters. So it's 2 meters by the width of fabric, which is 110, and the size of the quilt, or the quilt top, is 1.5 by 1.8 meters. So I don't have enough, but I am determined to make it work. So I think I've decided to use this fabric for the length of the quilt. I'm going to cut it in half, almost like maybe do like a 3/4 and then a quarter part, and then in that center part I'm going to do a whole row of blocks, which is why I started making some more trees. So I figured out that I need to make 6 more of these trees to be able to fit the whole length of the back of the quilt, to then be able to piece these to the sides to then make it wide enough to fit the back of the quilt. Now if that didn't make sense, that's okay. You'll sort of see what I mean as I go along, and once it's finished I'll also show you obviously what it looks like. So that was one thing I've started doing today. I made this block out of all of the leftover squares I'd cut previously, and then this morning I cut enough to make another 5 blocks. So that's all now sitting there patiently waiting for me to make another 5 blocks to be able to piece it all together for the backing. So at the moment it doesn't look like this quilt is going to be quilted anytime soon, but that's okay. It will get there. It just is what it is, and I know by putting all of this effort and time into it, the finished result is just going to be amazing, and that's all we've got to think about, is just how good it's going to be once it's finished. The other thing that I quickly made this morning is I made myself a bookmark out of a small scrap bit of this plus fabric that I've been using for the tree stumps, and I'm like, I'm gonna make that into a bookmark because I'm desperate for a bookmark at the moment, because I've just started reading a very interesting book. I was reading it last night and I was putting it down. I'm like, I don't have a bookmark, so I thought I'd make myself one. So this is just obviously some scrap fabric. This one was just out of my scrap fabric as well, and then just some scrap ribbon. It is a little bit floppy because I forgot to put interfacing in it, but it really doesn't matter. It will do the job. But I did do some quilty lines on it just to give it a little bit of body. It hasn't really done very much, but yeah, really happy with that. So that has been my morning. Just sort of, you know, pottering around and getting a few little things done in the sewing room to then prepare for the next stage of making my Quilty Trees quilt. So I'm not sure whether I'm gonna like bore you all with making another 5 tree blocks, because you've seen me make them over and over and over and over again. So I might sort of make them off camera and just show you as they, you know, are finished. And then sometime this week, hopefully, I'll show you the process of piecing all of the pieces together to make our backing for the quilt. We'll see. I do have a bit of a busy week this week, but that's okay. We'll figure things out as we go. Well, good evening, my friends. It's a little bit later on in the day, and yes, I have had a wardrobe change. It was getting a little bit too cold for my sundress, so I'm like, oh, we gotta put something a little bit warmer on. Now, I've been reading through some of the comments you guys have left on my, what did I call that video? Let's have a big hexie chat or something. The tutorial vlog that I did on Thursday. I'm chatting you all through how I make my hexies, and I was just looking through some of the questions you guys left. One of them was asking how I actually sort of like cut the fabric to fit the template, and so I thought instead of actually responding, like writing it out, I show you what I do. I have to admit, I did actually leave that step out. I kind of got ahead of myself, so I'm just going to do a really quick walkthrough of how I put fabric on a template. So I have this huge tub. It's chock full and it's very heavy, full of just scrap fabrics. Lots of different sized fabrics that I'm just not going to be sort of using in like projects. I've got like all different sorts of sizes and things. All these sort of fabrics I put in this tub, and it's destined to become a hexie. I always make sure that it will definitely fit. Oh, this one's pushing it, maybe not. I always make sure the pieces will definitely fit my 1.5 inch hexie template, which these ones do. So whatever I collect and don't want to throw away, I put in this tub to make into hexies. Let's find something fun. So we have this fun EXO, I think it's called EXO by Cotton and Steel. I love this range, it's the one with all X's on it. Let's make a hexie out of this one. So what I do is I just put the hexie onto the fabric like so, and I just make sure I place it so that when I start cutting, I'm going to be left with a 1/4 inch sort of seam around the edge once I cut it. Sometimes I'll sort of like be a little bit fussy on where like the print on the back's going to be on the hexie, so like I want to keep that top cross in there and sort of get as much of the design as possible. Once I'm happy with the position, I'll grab a pin from my wonderful little pin cushion and I just pop a pin in, and I always make sure that the pin is along a straight edge, so the head of the pin is along a straight edge, so that when I start basting, I'll be able to start basting on this side and go around. I'll have to stand up and show you the next bit. Okay, hexie's ready to cut, and what I'm going to do is, oh, that's a good angle, look at that. I'm just going to eyeball it about a 1/4 inch, cut that off, and then eyeball it 1/4 inch, like so, eyeball it, next one, and then the last side. So there I am left with a hexie all ready to be basted. I've left a really nice, generous 1/4 inch seam-ish. It's a little bit bigger than a 1/4 inch. I find by leaving like quite a generous sort of seam allowance, it'll just help with like the seams not sort of popping out or anything like that. They just sort of hold their shape better when there's a lot to hold. You know what I mean? About you, but once you start doing one hexie, you can't stop with just one. You gotta keep going. So as you saw, I've just created a whole lovely little pile for me to baste tomorrow. So I just raided my little stash in my tub just with some new prints, a few colors that are a little bit different, to add to my tin of pre-basted hexies. And then I can start making some more hexie flowers because I haven't done any this weekend, which feels a little bit strange because I've sort of been making at least 1 or 2 every day. Over the weekend I lost it, you know, which is really quite sad, but you know, it'll come back. It'll come back. I'm going to try and do a couple more of the backing blocks for my Quilty Trees quilt tomorrow. I think in the morning I'm going to be out and about doing a few things with Graham, just doing a few errands together. But then I think in the afternoon I'll be able to spend some time in front of my darling machine and just getting her done. Plodding along and just getting this quilt done. Oh my gosh, it's like the longest saga of a quilt I think I've ever had. I'm having real issues with the focus, so I might have to get up really close, but I don't want to do that because it's late and I don't want to get too close. Anyway, I need to end this vlog. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I'll see you all again tomorrow. Bye bye.